Welcome to Deep Dive Lab, where we break down and dissect cutting-edge scientific research, from advanced biomedical technologies to breakthroughs in AI, material science, chemistry, and physics, all told as compelling, easy-to-follow stories. And today we are looking at something you have almost certainly encountered in your own life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd be shocked if anyone listening hasn't run into this at least once.
Right.
Well,
Just picture a classic, 1990s or early 2000s classroom. What do you see on the wall? There is almost definitely a motivational poster.
oh, yeah.
Maybe it's that iconic little kitten desperately clinging to a tree branch with the bold white letters screaming, hang in there. Or maybe it's a picture of a mountain peak with a quote about attitude determining your altitude.
Right. Or you see it in movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's that classic Hollywood trope. The wise, kind of grizzled mentor looks the underdog right in the eyes and says, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yes, we love that narrative. I mean, we just eat it up.
We really do. The idea that our attitude, our fundamental belief in ourselves, is the primary engine of our success is baked so deeply into our culture that we rarely even question it.
Yeah, it feels like a universal truth. If you just believe you can improve, you will.
Exactly.
Here's a strange question for you then. Why does telling a student that they can grow their brain sometimes do absolutely nothing for their actual grades?
And that paradox gets to the very heart of what we are unpacking today.
Because it really doesn't make sense on the surface.
No, it doesn't. For decades, scientists, educators, and corporate trainers thought they had essentially discovered the ultimate psychological cheat code for success.
The cheat code.
Right. It was a single, elegant theory that promised to revolutionize how we learn, how we work, how we parent. But recently, a massive, rigorous scientific investigation uncovered a very different and honestly a far more complicated truth about how human potential actually works in the real world.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about the growth mindset. If you have been near a school, a corporate retreat, or self-help aisle in the last 20 years, you know this term.
Oh, it's everywhere.
But let's set the baseline before we tear it down. Where did this all start, and what exactly were people believing?
So the origin of this massive movement centers around a framework introduced by Dr. Carol Dweck. It became incredibly popularized in her 2006 book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success.
Okay, 2006.
Right. And she proposed that people generally hold one of two implicit theories about their own intelligence and abilities. The first is a fixed mindset, which researchers sometimes call entity theory.
Entity theory, meaning you view your intelligence as a fixed entity, like your shoe size. You're either a size 9 or you aren't. You either have the math gene or you don't.
Exactly. But it's not just a fixed entity. It becomes a vulnerability.
How so?
Well, if you believe your intelligence is static, like that shoe size, it creates a whole psychological world of threats and defenses. If you fail a math test, it's not just a bad day.
It's a permanent indictment of your innate ability.
Yes. People with a fixed mindset tend to hide their weaknesses. They avoid challenging tasks because struggling might make them look, not smart.
Right.
They spend their energy trying to prove they have talent
Right.
rather than trying to develop it.
That makes total sense. I think we've all felt that panic at some point, wanting to look competent rather than actually learning something new. So the alternative, the hero of the story, is the growth mindset.
Also known as incremental theory. This is the belief that intelligence and abilities are malleable. They are not a shoe size, they are a muscle.
Awesome.
Right, and like any muscle, you can train it, stretch it, and grow it through effort, good strategies, and seeking help. The theory claims that if you adopt this growth mindset, you will naturally embrace challenges.
Because failure isn't permanent.
Exactly. You see failure not as a permanent flaw, but as a necessary stepping stone. And supposedly, this psychological shift leads to massive, transformative gains in achievement.
I mean, it sounds so intuitively right. And it caused an absolute revolution. Schools redesigned their entire curricula around it. Fortune 500 companies poured millions into mindset training for their executives. Sports teams adopted it as a core philosophy.
It is huge.
But before we talk about why this narrative started falling apart, I need to know the mechanism. When we talk about mindset interventions in schools, what does that actually look like? Are they going to a year-long mindset boot camp?
You'd think so, but no. The mechanism is actually surprisingly brief, and that's part of why it became so popular.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a typical mindset intervention might just be a 45-minute computer module.
Wait, 45 minutes?
Just 45 minutes. A student sits down, reads an engaging article about neuroplasticity, learning how the brain forms new connections when it struggles, And then they might be asked to write a short letter to a struggling younger student, advising them that their brain can grow like a muscle.
That's it.
That's it. It relies on a saying is believing effect. The idea is that this tiny, stealthy intervention shifts their internal narrative just enough to change their trajectory for the entire school year.
Okay, I have to push back here. Just a 45-minute module.
I-
I mean, even with that, the logic still seems undeniable. If I do that module and I genuinely truly believe I can get better at math, shouldn't I naturally get better because I'm going to put in more effort?
Seems like it, right?
Yeah, it seems like common sense. Like if I believe I can run a marathon, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., buy the right shoes, and train harder. How could that not lead to better performance?
Yeah. The causal chain you just described, belief leads to effort, effort leads to improvement, is exactly the logic that had scientists so baffled when the independent data started rolling in.
Oh.
It makes perfect intuitive sense. But when researchers took these interventions out of small, tightly controlled lab settings and tried to scale them across thousands of messy real-world classrooms, the data completely stopped matching the theory. The massive spikes in academic achievement that everyone expected just weren't happening. The causal chain was breaking down somewhere.
So scientists didn't just throw their hands up. They started a massive investigation to figure out where the chain was breaking.
They dug into the data with unprecedented rigor. We need to introduce the heavy hitters of this deep dive.
Let's do it.
In 2022, Dr. Brooke McNamara from Case Western Reserve University and Alexander Burgoyne from the Georgia Institute of Technology published a massive landmark study in the journal Psychological Bulletin.
Okay.
And this wasn't just setting up one new experiment in a local middle school. It was a systematic review and meta-analysis.
Let me jump in to translate that for you listening. A meta-analysis is essentially a study of studies. It's when researchers scoop up all the relevant research ever done on a topic, pool all the data together, and look at the big picture.
Exactly.
It's like taking hundreds of individual blurry photographs and stitching them together into one massive, clear, panoramic image. It stops us from relying on just one fluke study.
And the scale of this specific investigation was staggering. McNamara and Burgoyne analyzed 63 independent studies, which altogether encompassed over 97,000 students.
97,000. That is massive.
It is. But what made their investigation so crucial is that they didn't just blindly average the results together. They judged the studies on quality.
Ah, that's key.
Yes. They looked at whether the studies adhered to strict scientific best practices before taking their results seriously.
Which means looking for things like random assignment and control groups. And for anyone wondering why that's a deal breaker, think about it like this. If you test a new mindset program on an after-school math club, of course their grades might go up.
Right.
Those kids already volunteer to be there. They are highly motivated. Random assignment means you are taking a giant pool of kids and flipping a coin. Heads, you get the mindset training. Tails, you are in the control group and you get nothing, or like a placebo module.
Exactly.
If you don't do that, your results are basically useless.
Without those controls, you aren't measuring the intervention, you're just measuring pre-existing enthusiasm. So, McNamara and Burgoyne separate the rigorous, highly controlled science from the sloppy science. They run this massive analysis on nearly 100,000 kids.
So if they tested over 90,000 kids, I'm guessing the massive revolutionary effect size that the 2006 book promised was nowhere to be found. Let's reveal the actual numbers.
Prepare yourself. Across all the high-quality studies, when they looked at the effect of growth mindset interventions on actual academic achievement, the overall effect size was 0.05.
Oh, okay. Let me give you an ELI 5 and explain. Like, I'm 5 for an effect size, because 0.05 probably doesn't mean much on its own.
Please do.
An effect size is basically a volume dial for how much an intervention actually changes things in the real world. An effect size of 0.05 means the volume dial is barely turned up past 0. You can't even hear the music.
Barely a whisper.
Right. It's practically microscopic in the world of educational research. To give you a comparison, a previous meta-analysis by Sisk and colleagues in 2018 in Psychological Science found a very similar, incredibly small effect size of 0.08.
Which is still tiny.
Exactly. Now think about this. Simply getting a good night's sleep has an effect size on academic performance of about 0.3.
Wow, so sleep is nearly 4 times more impactful than these highly funded, heavily researched mindset interventions.
4 times.
If you want a student to get a better math score, an extra hour of sleep dwarfs a computer module about neuroplasticity.
But the tiny effect size isn't even the craziest part of this story. Here's where it gets really interesting. The twist. The wow moment of the whole investigation. What did McNamara and Burgoyne discover when they looked at who was actually publishing these studies?
This is the part that sent shockwaves through the psychological community. McNamara and Burgoyne dug into the financial incentives behind the research.
Financial incentives.
Yes, they found that authors who had a financial incentive to report positive findings, meaning researchers who were making money selling mindset books, doing corporate consulting, or collecting hefty speaking fees, they published studies with significantly larger effect sizes than neutral, independent authors.
Wow. Okay, let's pause here. We need to be clear about what this means. We aren't necessarily accusing anyone of intentional malicious fraud, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about a systemic flaw in how science gets published.
Right, exactly. It's a classic example of publication bias, often called the file drawer problem.
Let me paint a picture of the file drawer problem for you. Imagine a researcher whose entire mortgage, their university tenure, and their prestige are all paid for by consulting fees for growth mindset seminars.
High stakes.
Very high stakes. They run a study. The data comes back showing the intervention did absolutely nothing. Consciously or not, human nature kicks in. They think, oh, well, the kids were just distracted that day, or the computer module had a glitch.
Yeah, they rationalize it.
Right, they rationalize it, and they literally shove that data into a filing cabinet, never to be seen again. But if they run a study and it does work, they rush to publish it in a massive journal.
And then the literature becomes entirely skewed. It creates a mirage. It looks like the interventions are working incredibly well because only the positive results are seeing the light of day while the failures are hidden in the dark.
A file drawer.
Yes. And when McNamara and Burgoyne statistically corrected for that publication bias, stripping away the artificially inflated numbers,
What happened?
the overall effect of growth mindset interventions on academic achievement dropped to basically zero. It was statistically non-significant.
Zero. That is a staggering conclusion. The ultimate psychological cheat code, when corrected for bias and poor design, has an effect size of 0. But I know science never relies on just one paper, even a massive meta-analysis. Were there independent researchers out there trying to replicate the classic mindset experiments from scratch?
Yes, there were, and their findings perfectly complement the meta-analysis. Let's bring in a fascinating 2019 study by researchers Lai and Bates, published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology.
Okay, Lang Bates.
They wanted to replicate the classic mindset interventions with extreme rigor to see exactly where the breakdown happens. They tested 624 children.
That's a good sample.
Very good. They gave them the standard mindset training, they carefully tracked their beliefs, and most importantly, they tracked their actual grades, resilience, and cognitive ability over time.
So if they tested over 600 kids, I'm guessing they found a massive disconnect between the kids' survey answers and their actual report cards.
The disconnect was absolute. The researchers found that the intervention did work in one very specific, superficial way.
Which was?
It successfully changed the kids' explicit beliefs. The children learned the vocabulary of a growth mindset. They started saying all the right things in the psychological surveys. They strongly agreed that intelligence could grow like a muscle. But their actual grades, their measurable resilience to failure, their raw cognitive ability, none of that moved an inch.
So what does this all mean? You're saying the kids learned to talk the talk of a growth mindset, but it didn't translate into walking the walk.
Exactly.
It's like downloading an expensive language learning app, feeling really good about having it on your phone, telling everyone you're learning French, but opening it once a week and never actually learning to speak a full sentence. You have the idea of the language, but zero functional ability.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. They downloaded the psychological app. They learned to repeat the slogans. But the translation mechanism, the actual behavioral bridge that turns a vague belief into the hard daily work of studying for a higher math grade, was entirely missing.
Wow.
Simply teaching a student to believe their brain can grow does not automatically or magically translate into higher academic achievement.
Which brings us to a massive question. Why should you, listening to this right now, care about any of this? If you aren't an educational psychologist or a school principal, why does this matter?
It matters a lot.
Right, well, think about the sheer societal resources at play here. Schools, parents, and businesses are spending massive amounts of time, energy, and taxpayer money on these interventions. They are buying the books, hiring the consultants, doing the seminars.
Millions of dollars.
Millions! If they don't work as advertised, we are burning resources that could be used on things that do mathematically work, like high-dosage tutoring, better early childhood nutrition, or simply making class sizes smaller.
It is a profound resource allocation issue.
Hmm.
We only have so much time and money to help students or employees succeed.
Absolutely.
But the scientific literature introduces a critical nuance here. We shouldn't necessarily throw the concept of growth out completely. Researchers often refer to something called the seed and soil concept.
Oh, I love this concept. Let's break down the seed and the soil because it explains so much about human behavior.
Think of a personal growth mindset as a seed. It undoubtedly has potential. But a seed cannot thrive without a supportive environment, which is the soil.
The environment.
Right. If you take a student and teach them a growth mindset, you give them the seed, you convince them their brain can grow, but then you drop them back into a highly competitive classroom that intensely punishes mistakes, grades strictly on a bell curve, and praises only natural, effortless genius.
And what happens?
That soil is toxic. The seed will instantly die. The internal mindset cannot survive the structural reality of the external environment.
It's like giving an employee a high-performance sports car engine. You say, here's this great mindset, rev it up, you can go 200 miles an hour. But then you force them to drive on a dirt road filled with massive potholes.
It's not going to end well.
No. If the school or workplace culture structurally punishes failure, all the internal growth mindset in the world won't save you. You cannot out-mindset a fundamentally broken system.
The environment dictates whether the mindset can actually be activated and utilized. And this is precisely why, while the academic grade benefits are highly questionable, the research shows that a growth mindset might still have significant value in completely different domains, like sports psychology or clinical therapy settings.
Because sports naturally have a completely different structure and a different feedback loop than a standardized math test.
Entirely different.
Yeah.
For athletes, viewing failure as a learning opportunity can actively build resilience in real time.
Yeah.
If a basketball player misses a shot, a growth mindset helps them immediately analyze the physical mechanics of the miss rather than just giving up and walking off the court.
They adjust on the fly.
Yeah. But again, it always goes back to the soil. That resilience only flourishes if the team culture and the coaching atmosphere actively support it. If a coach benches a player for the rest of the season after one single mistake, the athlete's internal growth mindset is rendered useless.
Right.
The environment wins.
So the mindset is just one tiny piece of a much larger structural puzzle. It's not the magic bullet we all desperately wanted it to be.
No, it's not. And if we connect this discovery to the bigger picture, it tells us something incredibly important and reassuring about the scientific process itself.
What's that?
Well, people often hear about the replication crisis, this phenomenon where old, famous psychological studies aren't holding up when modern researchers retest them, and the public thinks science is failing. They think we can't trust anything. But this isn't a failure of science at all.
Not at all. It's science doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's the immune system of human knowledge kicking in.
It is actively self-correcting. We propose an elegant theory, we test it, we get excited, and then a new generation of scientists comes along and tests it infinitely harder.
Which is great.
It is. We refine our understanding of human psychology. We are moving from a very simplistic 1990s idea, just change your mind and you'll get an A, to a maturer, nuanced understanding of how human cognition and environmental structures intimately interact.
Okay, let's synthesize all of this. We have covered a massive amount of ground today in this deep dive. What are the core things you need to take away from this look into the replication crisis? Number one, growth mindset is an incredibly popular idea. It sounds wonderful on a motivational poster, but rigorous, large-scale data shows its direct, standalone impact on academic grades is negligible.
It's hovering dangerously close to zero.
Number two, we all have to be highly critical consumers of science. Many of the early, highly publicized findings that started this massive craze were skewed by poor study design and publication bias, often driven by the financial incentives of the researchers to report positive, book-selling results.
And number three, a mindset alone is not a magic pill. The seed and soil concept is everything. Environmental and structural support, the actual tangible culture of your school, your team, your workplace are far more critical for actual achievement than just what you privately believe inside your own head.
That's a great summary.
When you look at the totality of this research, it's a humbling reminder of human complexity. We desperately want simple psychological cheat codes to fix deeply complex human problems.
We really do.
We want a poster on a wall or a 45-minute computer module to solve systemic educational issues.
Yeah.
But human behavior is wonderfully, stubbornly complex, and it demands real-world solutions.
It really is. We are so much more complicated than a slogan. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. If simply changing how we think about our intelligence isn't the real key to unlocking our potential, what real structural environmental changes do we need to make to truly help people succeed?
That's the real question.
If we take all that massive energy, time, and money we put into staring at that hang in there cat poster and put it into changing the actual tree the cat is stuck in, what would that world look like?
I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us for this session in the Deep Dive Lab. If you enjoyed unpacking the scientific mystery with us, make sure to follow and subscribe for more fascinating science stories. We will see you next time.